When the phone rang, Bruce Lee's face changed. Some saw his color drain. Others noticed his hand trembling. But most importantly, 27 hours after he hung up that call, the legend would be found dead, and the caller's identity would remain hidden for 50 years. Hong Kong, July 19, 1973, 2:47 p.m. The apartment was quiet, too quiet for a place where Bruce Lee lived. A man whose energy could fill a stadium, whose presence made silence impossible. Betty Ting Pei's apartment in Kowloon Tong. Bruce had come to discuss the script for Game of Death. Raymond Chow, the producer, was scheduled to arrive at 4 p.m. They had time to review the scenes. Bruce sat on the cream-colored sofa, script pages spread across the coffee table. He looked exhausted. More than exhausted, depleted. Dark circles under his eyes that makeup couldn't hide anymore. His movements slower than usual, like a machine running on empty reserves. Betty noticed. She always noticed. "You should rest. You've been working too hard." "I'm fine," Bruce said, but his voice lacked its usual certainty. He'd been having headaches for weeks, migraines that made light feel like knives. He'd collapsed on set 2 months earlier, May 10th. The entire crew panicked. Bruce Lee, the invincible dragon, unconscious on a soundstage floor. The doctors called it cerebral edema, brain swelling. They said he was pushing himself too hard. 18-hour days, 7 days a week. Training, filming, teaching, building an empire. Bruce didn't listen. He never did. "Rest is rust," he'd say. "A moving target is harder to hit." At 3:14 p.m. the phone rang. Bruce hesitated. Something Betty would never forget. Then picked it up. "Wei? Hello?" His face changed instantly. Color drained from his naturally tanned skin. Jaw tightened until the muscles stood out. His hand began to tremble, just slightly, but enough to be visible. "Nishi Shea. Who is this?" Betty couldn't hear the voice on the other end. Just a low murmur. "Male." American accent underneath the words, speaking urgently, quickly. Bruce stood suddenly, the phone cord stretching. He walked to the window, his back to Betty, looking out at the Hong Kong skyline below. "That's impossible," he said in English, then switched to Cantonese. "Nise Nali? Where are you?" More murmuring, longer this time. Bruce's shoulders tensed with each word he heard. Betty pretended to read the script, but she was watching Bruce's reflection in the window. His expression showed something she'd never seen on Bruce Lee's face before. Genuine fear. The conversation lasted 7 minutes. Betty would later tell police she timed it. 7 minutes that felt like an eternity. Bruce barely spoke, mostly listened, asked short, clipped questions, got long answers he clearly didn't want to hear. His body language told a story his words didn't. He shifted his weight, ran his free hand through his hair, turned to look at Betty once, his eyes distant, like he was seeing through her to some future he couldn't prevent. Finally, "I understand. Yes, I'll think about it." "No, don't." The line went dead. Bruce stood there, receiver in hand, listening to the dial tone for several seconds before slowly hanging up. "Bruce." Betty approached carefully. "Who was that?" "Nobody. Wrong number." But for the next 45 minutes, Bruce Lee, the most focused man Betty had ever met, couldn't read a single line of script without losing his place. But that phone call was just the beginning. Because what Bruce Lee did in those final 27 hours would reveal a secret that changed everything we thought we knew about the dragon, present day. 50 years later. Dr. 23. 50 years later. Dr. Sarah Chen sat in the Hong Kong police archives, researching for her book, The Final Day, Bruce Lee's Last Hours Reconstructed. The official story was simple. Bruce Lee went to Betty's apartment, had a headache, took an EQG tablet, lay down, never woke up. Cerebral edema, case closed. But Sarah found something in the phone records. At 3:14 p.m. on July 19, 1973, a call was placed to Betty's apartment from a payphone in Wan Chai district. Duration 7 minutes, 23 seconds. The payphone was outside a cinema. Across the street was a building that housed an American intelligence agency, one that officially didn't exist. Sarah contacted old journalist Michael Wong, who'd covered Bruce's death in 19... "I've been waiting 50 years for someone to ask me that question," he said. Michael showed her what he'd kept hidden for decades. A classified memo dated July 18th. The memo authorized final contact with Asset Ballet regarding Hong Kong extraction protocols. Asset has expressed reluctance. Persuasion authorized. Asset Ballet, Sarah whispered. Bruce Lee was working for American intelligence? Michael nodded. He was perfect, fluent in 3 languages, traveled constantly, had access to Hong Kong's elite businessmen, politicians, Triad leaders. He was gathering intelligence. And that phone call, I think they called in their debt, asked for something Bruce wouldn't give. And whatever they said, Michael paused. I think it killed him. What Sarah discovered next would prove that Bruce Lee's death wasn't just medical tragedy, it was the final scene in a spy story nobody knew existed. Sarah spent the next 6 months tracking down survivors. Most were elderly now, some refused to talk, others had died, but a few were willing to share what they'd kept silent about for half a century. James Lee, no relation, Bruce's close friend and training partner in Oakland, now 91 years old, voice weak over the phone but memory sharp as ever. Bruce traveled constantly, James told Sarah, more than made sense for just movies. Seattle, Los Angeles, Hong Kong, Bangkok, India, Rome. People thought it was for film deals, for demonstrations, but sometimes, he paused coughing, sometimes he'd come back different, quiet, stressed, wouldn't talk about where he'd been. He'd have packages, manila envelopes. Never told me what was inside. I learned not to ask. What did you think they were? I didn't think. You didn't question Bruce. But looking back, information, documents, film, whatever spies carried in the 1970s. Dan Inosanto, Bruce's most famous student, was more careful with his words when Sarah interviewed him at his martial arts academy in California. But there were parts of his life he compartmentalized, places he went alone, conversations that stopped when you entered the room, phone calls he'd take outside, walking down the street so no one could hear. I thought it was just business, movie business, Hollywood secrets. Now, he shook his head slowly, now I wonder if it was something darker. The real breakthrough came from actress Nora Miao, who'd worked with Bruce on several films. She'd retired from acting in the 1980s, moved to Canada, lived quietly. Sarah found her in Vancouver after months of searching. They met at a dim sum restaurant in Chinatown. Nora was 74, elegant, still beautiful, but her eyes carried weight. The weight of secrets kept too long. You want to know about the phone call? Nora said before Sarah could even introduce herself properly. It wasn't a question. How did you know? Because I received one too, 3 days before Bruce died. July 16, 1973. Sarah pulled out her notebook, hands trembling with excitement and dread. Tell me everything. Evening. I was home in my apartment. The phone rang. A man's voice. American accent. Professional. Cold. He said he was a friend of Bruce's. Said he was concerned about him. He asked me questions. What kind of questions? About Bruce's schedule, his habits, where he went when he wasn't on set, who he met with, what his mood had been like lately. Was he anxious? Paranoid? Acting strangely? I thought it was odd, but I answered. Bruce and I were friends. If someone else was worried about him too, why wouldn't I help? What did you tell them? Nora's eyes grew distant, reliving that conversation. I told them Bruce had been acting strangely for months, more stressed than usual. He'd been having meetings late at night. I saw him once, parked on a side street in his car at 2 a.m., talking to someone I couldn't see through the tinted windows. He'd been receiving packages at odd hours, and, she paused, he was burning papers in his fireplace. In July, in Hong Kong, when it's 90 degrees and humid, who burns papers in summer unless they're desperate to destroy something? What happened after the call? Nothing. For 3 days, nothing. Then Bruce died, and I realized someone had been checking on him, making sure he was still controllable, compliant, stable. I don't know the right word, but they were monitoring him, and 3 days later, he was dead. Did you tell the police? Nora's smile was bitter, painful. I tried. 2 detectives came to interview me the day after Bruce died. I mentioned the phone call, the strange questions. One detective wrote it down, the other gave him a look I'll never forget. Cold, warning. The notepad got closed. They told me, Miss Miao, Bruce Lee died of natural causes, a tragic accident. Any other story is bad for Hong Kong, bad for cinema, bad for tourism, bad for everyone who loved him. Do you understand? I understood, but you kept evidence. From her purse, Nora pulled out an envelope, yellow with age, edges worn soft, postmarked July 18, 1973, 1 day before Bruce's death, addressed to her in Bruce's distinctive handwriting. He sent this the day before he died, the last letter I ever received from him. I've kept it for 50 years, never showed anyone, never told anyone it existed, but now I think people should know the truth. Nora showed Sarah a letter Bruce had written, dated July 18th. Nora, if something happens to me, know that I chose this path. There are games beyond cinema, beyond kung fu. I played those games because I thought I could control them. I was wrong. Be water, my friend, but remember, water can drown you if you're not careful. He knew something was coming. Sarah had witnesses and documents, but she needed the final piece, the identity of the caller, and proof of what was actually said. And finding that would require breaking laws she'd sworn to uphold. Sarah's breakthrough came from declassified CIA documents released in 2018 under the Freedom of Information Act. Thousands of pages. Most were redacted, black bars covering names, dates, operations.
But one document had been improperly redacted. A digital scanning error left shadows of text visible underneath the black bars, text that could be enhanced with the right software. Sarah spent 3 days with photo enhancement tools, pulling out letters, words, names from underneath censorship that was meant to last forever. A name emerged: Richard Hayes. Position: Field Operative, East Asia Division. Specialty: Cultural Intelligence and Asset Management. Status: as of 1973. Active. The file was thin. Hayes was a ghost. No photos, minimal biographical information. Born 1928, recruited 1952, served in Korea, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Vietnam. Commendations for classified operations. Sarah hired a private investigator. It took 2 months and $3,000, but he found Richard Hayes. Or rather, found his grave. Died 2019, age 91. Buried in Arlington National Cemetery, reserved for military and government service. Simple government headstone. No family present at funeral. No obituary. Like he'd barely existed at all. But the investigator found something else. A daughter. Catherine Hayes Morgan. Age 62. Living in Portland, Oregon. Librarian. Divorced. No children. Sarah flew to Portland the next day. Catherine's house was small but filled with books, floor to ceiling. Every wall. A librarian sanctuary. When she answered the door, she looked exactly like what she was. A quiet woman living a quiet life, far from her father's shadows. Miss Hayes Morgan? My name is Sarah Chen. I'm researching Bruce Lee. I know you're the 4th person to come asking in the last 5 years. Catherine's voice was calm, resigned. The 50th anniversary. Everyone wants answers. Come in. They sat in the living room surrounded by books. Catherine made coffee without asking if Sarah wanted any. My father was not a good man. Catherine began without preamble. I want to be clear about that from the start. He was absent, cold, emotionally manipulative, chose his work over his family every single time. My mother left him when I was 12. I saw him maybe 5 times after that. When he died in 2019, I didn't cry. I felt relieved. I'm sorry. Don't be. I'm telling you this so you understand. I have no loyalty to him, no reason to protect his memory or his secrets. So what I'm about to show you, I'm showing you because it's the truth, not because I want to defend him or his choices. She stood, left the room, returned carrying a metal box, army surplus, olive green, combination lock on the front. After my father died, his lawyer sent me this, with a letter. The letter said, "Your father wanted you to decide, open this or burn it unopened. Your choice. He said you'd understand when the time came. You opened it. Took me 3 years to work up the courage." She set the box on the coffee table between them, spun the combination. The lock clicked open with a sound that seemed too loud in the quiet room. This is what I found. Inside the box, an old tape recorder, 1970s model, reel-to-reel mechanism, and a single cassette tape, labeled in neat handwriting. Bruce Lee, Final Contact, 7/1973. Sarah felt her heart stop, felt the moment crystallize. This was it, the proof she'd been searching for. You're telling me, my father recorded the phone call, the one he made to Bruce Lee the day before he died. I don't know why he kept it. Guilt, maybe, or insurance, or just habit. Spies record everything, don't they? Evidence, leverage, proof. Have you listened to it? Once. That was enough. Catherine's hands shook slightly as she loaded the tape into the recorder. I'll play it for you, but understand, this destroys any remaining respect I might have had for my father. After you hear this, you'll know he was a monster. She pressed play. Static. Hiss. The sound of old tape spinning. Then a voice. Male. American. Professional. Why? Bruce's voice, distant through the phone line, wary. Nishi Shea? Richard Hayes, speaking in accented but competent Cantonese. Bruce, it's Hayes. We need to talk. For the next 7 minutes, Sarah listened to a conversation that would rewrite history. Hayes, the Hong Kong operation is shutting down. Too much exposure after Watergate. Every intelligence operation in Asia is under congressional review. We're pulling back, covering tracks. Bruce, what does that mean for me? Hayes, it means your service is appreciated. Truly, you've helped prevent conflicts, saved lives, probably. The information you provided on Triad operations alone prevented 3 major heroin shipments. You should be proud. Bruce, that sounds like a goodbye. Hayes, it is. But there's one more thing we need. Bruce's voice hardened. No, I told you last month. I'm done. My family needs me. Linda is stressed. The kids barely see me. I'm done playing spy. I really do. But we need you to make one final trip. Bangkok, August 1st. There's a contact there. Chinese intelligence officer. He's offering to defect. Bring information about operations in Southeast Asia. We need someone who can speak Cantonese, who's trusted in both communities, who can verify his authenticity. Bruce, send someone else. Hayes, there is no one else, Bruce. You're unique. That's always been your value. Chinese face, American heart. You can move in worlds nobody else can access. Triad leaders trust you. Politicians trust you. Hollywood trusts you. That's rare. Irreplaceable. Bruce, I said no. Hayes's voice changed, became harder, colder. Let me be very clear about something. The people you've been gathering information on, the Triad leaders, the corrupt politicians, the businessmen moving money between Hong Kong and the mainland, they're starting to ask questions. Starting to suspect someone's been feeding information to the Americans. Bruce, that's your problem, not mine. Hayes, it becomes your problem if your name shows up in certain documents. If certain conversations become public, your career disappears overnight. Your reputation as the Chinese hero who sold out his own people, your family's safety. Linda, Shannon, Brandon, everything you've built, gone. Long silence. When Bruce spoke again, his voice was smaller. Defeated. You're threatening my family. Hayes, I'm protecting them. Do this one last thing, and we make sure your name never appears in any file. We protect you. Forever. We owe you that much. But if you refuse to cooperate, he let the threat hang in the air. Bruce, and if I still say no, Hayes, then we can't guarantee your safety anymore. And Bruce, you've seen things. You know things. You have information in your head that could embarrass governments, destroy careers, start international incidents. People who know too much and refuse to cooperate. They have accidents, car crashes, robberies gone wrong, heart attacks at 32 years old. Another long, terrible silence. Bruce, I need time to think. Hayes, you have until July 30th. Call this number. He rattled off digits that Sarah quickly wrote down. Give me your answer. But Bruce, think very carefully. You're 32 years old. You have everything to live for. A wife who loves you. 2 beautiful children. A career that's exploding. Millions of fans. Don't throw it all away for pride. Don't be stupid. Bruce, his voice barely a whisper. I understand. Yes, I'll think about it. No, don't. The line went dead. Bruce had hung up mid-sentence. The tape kept running for a few more seconds. Then a new voice. Richard Hayes, speaking to himself or to the recording device. Subject is showing strong resistance. Emotional state appears fragile. Recommend increased surveillance. If subject does not comply by deadline, recommend implementing asset termination protocols. Cannot allow potential security breach. Too much at stake. The tape clicked off. Sarah sat in Catherine's living room, stunned into silence. The weight of what she'd just heard pressed down on her chest like a physical force. Catherine's voice was quiet when she finally spoke. My father threatened Bruce Lee's family, and 30 hours later, Bruce Lee was dead. Coincidence? The coroner said yes. My father's diary says no. But the recording wasn't the only thing in that box. What Catherine showed next would prove that guilt can be more destructive than any weapon. Catherine pulled out her father's diary. July 20th, 1973. Bruce Lee is dead. Cerebral edema. Official cause, medication. But I made that call. I delivered that threat. I made him choose between family and loyalty. Did I kill him? Not with my hands, but with my words. Did I apply the final pressure that broke an already fragile man? The entries continued for decades. Richard Hayes' slow descent into guilt. 1983. 10 years. Drinking heavily. Doctor says my liver is failing. Good. Bruce Lee was 32 when he died. I'm 55. I've lived 23 years longer. Years I stole. 1993. 20 years. Conspiracy theories won't die. None look at the truth. Bruce Lee died from fear. Fear I put in him. That fear combined with his condition. That stopped his heart. 2018. I'm dying. Cancer. 6 months. I've carried this for 45 years. Bruce Lee was a hero. I was the villain who killed him with a phone call. Final entry. 2019. If you're reading this, you know what I did. Tell his family. Bruce Lee was trying to change the world, and I destroyed him for it. I'm sorry. Sarah published her book. But what happened next proved that some truths are more dangerous than lies. The Final Call was published July 20. It went to #1 globally. Half the world praised it, half condemned it. Bruce Lee's family. We can neither confirm nor deny. Bruce was complex. He made difficult choices. The US government. We can neither confirm nor deny. Which meant, it's true. 3 things confirm Sarah's findings. First, Catherine's house was broken into. The original tape and diary were stolen. Second, an anonymous call. You were right. But Bruce wasn't just gathering intelligence. He was protecting people. Those Triad leaders, trafficking children. Those businessmen, laundering heroin money. Bruce fought evil quietly. Heroes in shadows don't get monuments. Third, Dan Inosanto confirmed everything. Bruce was carrying the world, trying to be everything. Nobody can carry that much weight. The phone call was just the moment when 1 more ounce became too much. Shannon Lee's office. The phone rang. Shannon almost didn't answer. Miss Lee? I'm Catherine Hayes Morgan. My father made that last call to yours. Shannon's hand tightened. I read the book. My father left a letter for you. Tell Bruce Lee's daughter that her father was the bravest man I ever met. Not because he could fight, but because he tried to change the world quietly. I broke him, but he chose to take that call. That makes him a hero. Catherine continued. There's a second recording. My father made it the day after your father died. The file arrived. Shannon played it. Hayes' voice broken with grief. Bruce, I'm sorry, you died because I couldn't let you walk away. You were right to choose your family. You died from trying to be everything, and I pushed you over the edge. I'm so fucking sorry." Shannon called a press conference. "My father tried to make the world better in ways the public never saw. Does that diminish his legacy? No. It makes him human, real, more inspiring." She established the Final Call initiative, supporting whistleblowers, protecting activists, helping people caught between impossible choices, because sometimes the bravest thing you can do is answer the phone, even when you know the call might destroy you. White text on black. Richard Hayes died in 2019, carrying guilt until his final breath. Bruce Lee died in 1973, carrying secrets the world is only now learning. The phone call lasted 7 minutes and 23 seconds. The truth took 51 years to emerge. The Final Call initiative has helped 847 people since 2024. Some calls you can't ignore. Some heroes never get their monument, but their echo changes the world anyway. Final image, Bruce Lee. Phone to his ear. Slight smile. Voiceover, Bruce Lee's actual voice. Be shapeless, formless, like water. Water can drip and it can crash. Become like water, my friend. Be water.